All right, guys, long-awaited video. This is going to be the 10 questions with the Pegasus. Okay, you guys have left me all sorts of questions in my inbox over time since I've started this channel, and some things that I've just kind of never got to. Certain things I omitted because it's just way too personal, and for the most part, these are kind of questions where they warrant like a bigger answer, and it's not something so simple like, I have this mod, do you think, blah, 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 what kind of pins? It's a little more complicated than that, okay? So let's begin. First of all, first question is the name Pegasus 1337. What's up with that? Okay, that name is a gaming name. I've had that name since I was 19. I'm 36 now, so it's been 17 years. 1337 actually spells leet for some of you people who don't know. So it's L337, so L-E-E-T, leet. So leet for elite. Yeah, it's a really douchey name. It's really cocky. It's really whatever. I'll tell you where everything comes from, okay? When you're in the competitive gaming scene, okay, back then, I was part of the whole, cyber athlete league, etc., and that's just how the culture is. Everybody talks trash. Everybody's, back and forth because you had to be in that kind of nature because, we're competitive, and it was over a lot of things. If you got into like, the top leagues and stuff, and you could get sponsored. There's a lot of prizes. A professional gamer could make anywhere between like $35,000 to $70,000 a year at the time, and you get to fly around playing your favorite games. So that was kind of a big deal to like a 19-year-old. So you kind of just went along with it. Pegasus is really from a cartoon back in the 80s called Saint Seiya. Some of you may know it, some of you, you got to be part of the older crowd. That cartoon was a little bit more ahead of its time, okay? So some people know it, some people not so much, you know what I mean? It's kind of big in certain places, but it didn't do well in other places. But for the most part, it was also like, a funny thing for people who didn't know exactly where, Pegasus, the cartoon character came from. So it's kind of like, Pegasus and Unicorn and Prancing Pony. So it's like, a funny name and a cocky extension, like all at the same time, because back then, I mean, even now today, right? If you ever noticed, like, people like, I don't know, like Ninja Beast and like, Sniper Wolf and whatever are usually like terrible gamers. Like they're just terrible, and like you could pick on them constantly. But it's always the people who have names like, I don't know, like Bob Dole, or Have a Nice Day, or something like that. Those are like the really, really good players, So the whole Pegasus 1337 is just something ridiculous for the competitive gaming scene at the time. And I've always had that name. I've always had, the YouTube and whatever, and it kind of just stuck, That's why I've changed everything over to, the PDA now, so that, like, we take the vaping a little more seriously, okay? I won't tell you what games that I used to play. I'm not going to tell you what games that I play now, because then it'll just get into a whole, like, Peg, you should this and you should that, and, that's not what the channel's about anymore. So, question number 2. Why do you only review clones? Okay, it's not about clones, okay? Sure, there's a lot of clones over here or whatever, but the thing is that, like, it's about accessibility. Okay, what does it matter if I tell you it's good, it's bad, or my opinion, or this or that, if you can't get your hand on it? Because that's exactly what happened when I first started watching a lot of videos. It was like, I saw something, and then it's just like, the Nemesis, the real Nemesis before they were Nemesis clones and whatever. You're just like, oh, I want one, but they're $200. And, to this day, we still a lot of people still cry about it. You know, it's $200 for this one, was 180. It's going to break my wallet, etc., 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 like that, right? And I thought to myself that, like, you know what? If I ever do a channel one day, I want to do like more accessible things. So, you know, there's plenty of stuff like right now what's in my hand is like a limo tank, and a limo tank is you know, a legit item that, well, I shouldn't say legit, okay? It's an original item from E-Leaf, you know, Ice Mocha, and you know, it goes for like around $30. It's in mass production. You know, it's possible to get your hands on it. You contact, you know, my friends at Vapor Company, they'll hook you up. You know, accessible things. Okay, that way, when I give you an opinion or whatever, you know, you could go out and get one if you want to. You could either find it on eBay or, you know, whatever the coupon codes or other site links that I link you guys to. And that's how everything is, like, you know, cohesive like that. You know what I mean? Like, I do the shopping, I show you where to get it, I tell you about it, you know, the actual one in my hand or whatever. So it's not about clones. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, you know, it might seem that way, but, you know, don't get it twisted. Okay, number 3. Why don't you do more reviews? Okay, because too many things out there is kind of similar. You know what I mean? I don't want to do, and there's no way of me saying this without accidentally stepping on some toes, so I might as well do it, right? I didn't do, you know, the Still Air RDA, and then the Castle RDA, and then the Quasar RDA, and then, because they're really similar to each other, you know. And I realized after saying that I just totally stepped on every single toe of every single reviewer who literally has done the Castle, the Omega, you know, and like all those RDAs back to back. And, you know, I've ranted about this to, you know, a fellow reviewer before, that, like, you know, there was like a drought. You know, there was a time where they just kept on making 3-pronger after 3-pronger after 3-pronger, and I just wanted to stab my, like, if I saw another 3-pronger, like, ever since, you know, from the from the Nimbus, and then the IGO W, and then the Patriot, and then the Omega, and then, you know, it just constantly kept on doing like the 3-prong thing, right? So yeah, it's not until like now where, when you open a dripper, like, you know, you're going to see things like the Veritas, right? And then you're going to see like things like the Vulcan or whatever, although the Vulcan still, like, you know, kind of a 3-pronger, but it's evolved so much more, as opposed to, you know, back then where everybody had, like, you know, a Nimbus or IGO W. Another thing, right, is that there's already a lot of excellent reviews that I already agree with. And when they do a review where, like, I feel as if like a lot of my bases are covered as well, I'm not here as, you know, to race people or whatever, or to shovel more stuff like onto, like, I don't care what, you know, like, I watch what other people do as well. And if there's already a very good one, then, you know, so be it, right? I feel bad for the reviews that are done very well that don't get enough airtime, like there's not enough views on it, you know what I mean? Versus like some other channels that, like, you know, they just put any old junk out and, you know, like 40,000 views immediately. So let me see. I absolutely have to disagree with most of the reviews in order for me to release a review of the same item. You know what I mean? Like I absolutely have to be like, everybody's saying this, but nobody's saying that. Like, nobody's like there's an elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, and that's when, you know, I have to jump in. And you could see that, like, many times, like when I do a review or whatever, I struggle with the review because I don't want to pick up an item and then unbox it and then read the instructions and then show you the functions and point out the obvious and then turn off the camera. You know what I mean? If you wanted that average Joe, like, you know, that, I don't know, certain people, like, they say, like, well, I am a noob, I don't claim, you know, I don't claim to be an expert, etc., etc., like all that stuff. I don't know exactly who that video is for, actually, because if you wanted to see, like, the Sigelli, like, 100-watt a box bot or whatever, just go to your brick and mortar store. I mean, they have them in stock, and just go hang out with the owner and just be like, hey, show it to me. And then, there you go. There's your average Joe opinion right there between you and the store owner. I mean, what else could you not have come up with, like, between, the two of you, right? What you really want is, like, for a third party, like, some kind of expertise or whatever, to say, hey, this is where it shines. Let me show you how it shines, and let me point out some stuff that you may never come across on your own. You know what I mean? Then I feel as if, like, I don't know, it's just my opinion, but then I feel as if, like, the video is more worth everybody's time to watch, because I'll be honest with you guys, I feel bad if I've wasted your time, So many times, like, I tell people, like, look, if you already know this stuff, then take a back seat, because, if you know it, it's not for you. But, it's not fair to go around to, like, every single video, just be like, oh, I already know this, I already know. Well, what about everybody else who wants to learn it? What about everybody else who's late to the party and, they want to catch up on stuff? The video is for everybody, So, I know, I'm well aware that, like, you can't satisfy everybody all the time, but I still chase that, I still try to, satisfy as much as I can, so that, like, even when you know that stuff, maybe at least you could appreciate that it was at least well put, something like that. And lastly, right, I don't want to fall into the comfort zone. Okay, see, when you do a class, when you do an experiment, there's a lot of prep work. There's theory, there's thoughts into it, and then there's work to be shown. And before you even get to it, it's just like, hey, if I do this, does this even make any sense? And the way I explain this, will this make sense to other people? Should I reword what I'm doing to make it more digestible? There's a lot more work that goes into, doing the experiments and the myth busting, all those other, like, crazy, more intellectual videos, than to just pick up an item and then review it and then just be like, well, this is my opinion on this, and then when you do the experiment stuff, like, it involves tools, charts, other findings of stuff. You have to piece them together. There's probably a script, because there's so much information that, like, you don't want to, like, turn off the camera and you're like, ah, damn it, I left out something, right? As opposed to when you do a review, especially when you do the conveyor belt review, which is kind of like how a lot of other reviewers do it, which is, I got this item sent to me by X company, link in the description below, let's get into it, here's the close-ups, let me take this apart for you, let me reassemble it for you, does it interchange with other, it goes back and forth, and then, like, but how does she vape? And then, take a couple of hits, and, it's like a train, and then boom, and then we turn off the camera, you know what I mean? It's so easy to get complacent and fall into that. And at the same time, you know what? As bad as I make it sound, it's actually good for the channel, because people tune in very often to, like, the title of videos, and if it's a hot video, you know what I mean, because it's a hot item. So it's like when the TOBH first came out, like, everybody was like, hey, does it, like, we don't care what it is, like does anybody have a TOBH video? So if you're the first one to, boom, to bust that out, like, it could, like, help your channel a lot. It'll get you subscribers, it'll get you views, it'll get you, a lot of things. But it, how do I say it? Like, it's healthy for the channel, but it's when you fall into, like, the phase of just doing another one after another one after another one, I don't know. It makes me feel like couch potato-ish, you know what I mean? I feel as if, like, I'm just sitting there with a flicker, just changing the channel, and I'm getting more and more sick of it, and then eventually I probably wouldn't be able to continue the channel, because it's not interesting, it's not fresh, it's not, like, whether it's controversial or whether it's you know, like a crazy new finding or something like that, and be like, hey, did you guys know, et cetera, et cetera, or let me tell you a story of what's going on in China, the investigative reporting, this is what I found out, my contacts and sources say, et cetera, and then, you know, we back it up with like other, you know, diggings and stuff. You know, I for me as the content creator, right? I mean, you know, that's what keeps me going, as well as, you know, all the kind comments and responses from you guys. So that's basically a huge answer of why I don't actually do more reviews, and I have more videos on vape knowledge than vape gear. Okay. When I do the vape gear stuff, I like to do the stuff that is more either a game changer, or like it's a class of its own, or, you know, and that's why I did the shopping series. You know what I mean? Like, we don't necessarily have to own the item. Let's go look at stuff. When you watch the shopping series, it's not just about like checking out the new items or whatnot. It's also about like training your eye to catch garbage before you even buy it. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so number 4. Let's just move on to the next one. That was getting too long. How come you don't do more build videos? This one's a really, really good question. Okay, yeah. It's not because there's already plenty of people who do builds and stuff, and they're really good at doing builds, and you know what I mean, I have to keep up with them or something. It's not that at all. Okay, it's that many times I try to define gimmicky to you guys. Okay, what is gimmicky? To me, okay, gimmicky, I don't know if you guys could follow, like if we're all, you know, agreeing on this in unison, right? What is gimmicky to me, right, is that even if something is better, but if it's not significantly better for the trouble or the price, then it is gimmicky. Does that make sense? Like I'll say it again, right? If for instance, right, the wicking thing, right? Till this day, I'm still using cellular cotton. Okay, Phil did a whole, like, you know, shootout of like wicking and of different wicks of whatever. So, you know, there was a time where everybody was going crazy about the KGD, Kojendo cotton, et cetera, whatever, right? I didn't even bother touching the Kojendo cotton because, you know, my wife had already had that for years. You know, I didn't even realize like I had that in the house. But anyways, the thing was that like after he did the shootout, right, the price for Kojendo, even though he ranked it as the best one, okay, next was cellular cotton, and next was like some kind of hemp, and then followed by, you know, the regular the cotton stuff, right? Just like organic cotton or whatnot. So in my opinion, right, cellular cotton is still the best, because even though Kojendo outperforms it, the price that you have to pay is significantly better than the cellular cotton. No, you know, it's the same thing as you know, all the other gimmicky wires out there, whether they're tighter wires or, you know, the other wires made out of different materials or whatever, that go for like, you know, anywhere between like $20-$25 a foot or something like that. Are those wires better? They are better. They genuinely are better. Are they better to the point where it warrants the difference in price? Hell no. Like, hell no. You know, so doesn't that put like nichrome and Kanthal back on top as number 1? In my opinion, yeah. So you know, different reviewers or whatever, as they use the tiger wires and whatnot, it depends how they say things. If they say that like, yeah, this wire is superior to that wire, sure, you know, but should you go out of your way to buy it, and you know, to the point where like the increase in performance warrants the price difference? No, that would that would just straight up be a lie, you know. And so far, no one was able to endorse something like that, and just tell people that like, yeah, you should go buy this because, you know, it's so worth the money. Nobody has ever said it was worth the money. Okay, people at best, you know, for the sake of not letting the company look bad, they just stay with like, yeah, it is better than basic Canthal. It is better than your regular silica wicks or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's real borderline, like what the comments and the statements are. So with that said, of why I don't do more build videos, right? It's because I really enjoy doing the builds where the item itself is the challenge. You know what I mean? The difficulty is in the atomizer. The difficulty is not in like, oh, you know, what kind of you know, twisted gauge canthals that we come up with. Like you've seen Rip do like, you know, all these different coils from his Facebook. These aggro coils, these dragon coils or whatever. Certain people, right, might swear by it. Okay, I tried it, and there are times where I was like, yeah, I see how vapor production is slightly increased, blah, 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 whatever, right? But was it worth my time to go get 4 of my canthals and my drill to, you know what I mean, and create that so just so that like I could chop it up and then like what was it worth all that time? And the answer generally is no. It was not worth the time. What, you know, how much different was it to just use like a regulated device and then use a thicker gauge canthal, like 24 gauge, and then do like the equivalent amount of reps to get the equivalent amount of ohms, et cetera, you know what I mean, to try to tweak for the same kind of heat. Right. It would, that's what usually ends up happening, and that's why I don't do that kind of build video. You know what I mean? I want to do the build video where like it's not just about like building the coil, but it's building the coil and how you wick it, different ways of wicking it, the difficulty of this device, how to understand this device, thinking outside the box when involved with this device. And that's why I did that whole Ude series, because when the Ude stuff came out, that was like a breath of fresh air towards that 3-prong you know, innovation drought period, right? So what happened is that when those things came out, I was like, hallelujah, you know what I mean? I would love to work with these 4 items. So when I saw them, you know, this is the build. Let me go show you guys, you know, the manufacturer intended build, and then let me show you some outside of the box thinking builds. And you know, you could do it this way, you could do it that way. Which way do you think it was more superior as far as like, you know, heat and wicking and you know, distribution between like, you know, the coils and the balance of air, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? There was a huge art form in that, and I feel as if like, you know, when you finally get that rig set up perfectly, like in a tank where like it's vaping big and it's not leaking, as opposed to like, you know, your first 6 fails of frustration and you're losing e-juice everywhere, and then when you finally got it to work, oh, it's like, you know, it's like climbing Mount Everest, you know what I mean? Like you finally get it to the top, you're screaming like Rocky, like, you know what I mean? So yeah, so much more rewarding than grabbing a drill and twisting up some coils, you know what I mean? Okay, so number 5. How come you have 0 juice reviews or commented on juice? Because I don't pretend to know everything. You know, like, do I have juice? Sure, I have juice. I have juice sitting on my desk. You know, I have juice. I have atomizers. I have batteries. I could taste them for you, just like everybody else. But the thing is that like I don't know if my tongue is calibrated properly. You know, if I go ahead and taste something, and you know it's supposed to be watermelon, and I taste lemonade or something like that, and that's what I tell you guys. It's like what the hell? We're not really getting anywhere, you know. So without like, I don't know, proper training, but I just don't deem myself like worthy of tasting juice and telling you guys about it. That's what it really is. And if I was to do that, like, I'd bring in somebody else, and that's exactly what, like, the whole culinary series is. Okay, and right now, you know, what me and Chris are doing, because after Chris has contacted me, and then he said, you know, I really want to, you know, bring my culinary background into like this vaping thing, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just gonna go ahead and you know, do a couple of classes first to cover some bases, right? As far as like, you know, labeling things and definitions and terms and stuff, so that like we're, you know, all on the same page as far as communication lingo, right? Before we go ahead and get fancy. And then there will be a spin-off channel of Chris standalone, and he will start doing a couple of Gordon Ramsay-ish things, right? Between having a cooking show and visiting brick and mortars to talk about, like, you know, their juices and stuff like that, and, you know, possibly in the future, you know, maybe even if the show blows up a little more, probably even go on location to certain juice companies or whatever, and then, you know, we could go check out the behind the scenes of, like, you know, maybe their clean room, and then, you know, stuff, you know what I mean, what goes into really mixing a difficult juice, like spices added, etc., etc. You know, it's not the whole just like, you know, 4 ingredients, PG, VG, nicotine, and flavoring. You know, like how does it get crazy, etc., etc., like that. So, you know, I'm gonna do the classes first, and then eventually it'll go on from there. But I'm just not the person for it. And if I had the culinary background, then, like, yeah, I'd step up and do that. But, you know, being like my age and already running a business and whatever, there's no way I'm going back to culinary school just so that, like, you know, I could be that all in one person. You know what I mean? Just can't know everything, you know. So it's the way it's got to be. If anything, I just hope that you guys are happy with you know, your new professor as far as the tasting category, the juice and whatever. Okay, because I feel as if, like, you know, Chris explains things very clearly, and so far I feel as if he's done a pretty solid job of things, and the feedback so far, it seems as if it's just that. Okay, so moving on. How many atomizers are in your possession? Here. Let's count about a month ago, about 70. So with, like, you know, other bait bale, etc., whatever, so there should be about 70 plus atomizers sitting behind me, like, you know, all in various boxes, as well as stands and on top of other devices and things like that. Yeah, this is exactly what I mean by, like, I don't review everything that I own. You know, doesn't necessarily mean I don't have it. It's there. It's sitting there. Some of them are just collecting dust. Some stuff, you know, is just gimmicky or whatever. I watched a review, uh, I don't know if it was a review. It was more like a vlog or something once upon a time, and it made a lot of sense. It was like, sometimes when I say something is bad, people go out and buy it anyways. And I thought that was hysterical. And I'm like, is that really true? Like, even when you give a bad review, like, people don't avoid it. They just go ahead and get it anyways. And yeah, more or less, that's exactly what happens. So sometimes, you know, if I disagree with something, you know, it just means that, like, I don't want to give it any more light than it already doesn't deserve, you know, because it's a bad item. Or it's just simply redundant, like what we said before, between, like, the Omega and the Castle and this and that, you know, all 3-prong drippers and whatever. Probably hurt a lot of feelings after saying that, but you know who you are, and it is what it is. They're 3-prong drippers, and, you know, they have their differences, but they weren't, like, just significant enough to be labeled as a game changer. And if it's not really a game changing item, I'm not fancy to review it. You know what I mean? I'm not excited to do it. Okay, let's move on. Number 7, Peg, have you considered putting together a Facebook discussion page? No, because too much drama on Facebook. Okay, Facebook generally, you guys be surprised. My largest demographic of this channel, right, is a lot of serious folks. Is actually between the ages of 45 and 55, and that's who most of you guys are. You know, you take this stuff very seriously. You guys were smokers for a very, very long time, and you take not smoking very seriously, and you take, you know, enjoying this vape thing and getting on a healthy track very, very seriously, you know. While Facebook, just something about Facebook is where all the trolls and douches and I'm not saying all of them, but you know, they're more there than anywhere else. You got to admit that there and Reddit and whatever. You know, I can't tell you how many times that, like, you know, it's always been hysterical to me that, like, certain people on forums, like, they're so vigilant to check forums like forever just to, like, you know, mock this and troll that and you know what I mean, say a whole bunch of, like, you know, combatant things that while being, like, totally misinformed or whatever, but they'll never start a channel of their own and try to promote some real change and do some real good within the community. You know what I mean? Where every now and then they might answer, like, one guy who says, "Hey, I have an MVP. Can I put, like, you know, a dripper on it?" And he'll be like, "Yeah," and then that's it. You know, right? So all that stuff. I don't want to get into it. Okay, if you guys need anything, you guys can always find me here. And instead of doing, like, the whole Facebook group or whatever, I went ahead and, you know, one better, and then we are launching the website. And the website, basically what the website is for, right, is that it's going to be a nice compilation of a lot of my educational videos. Okay, and the purpose of the website is for me to do the work and everybody else to just be lazy and refer, you know, because truth be told, when we get into, like, the vaping thing or whatever, there's so much to know, to the point where, like, it's really difficult to tell, to just be like, if somebody says to you, like, "Hey, I want to get into vaping too, like, where do I start?" For you, it's just like, damn, where do I start? You know, do I teach him this first, or teach it? Like, everybody's got different opinions, different, like, whatever. So an easy thing that you could do is that, like, you could refer him over to the PVA website and just be like, well, watch those videos first, and then if you have any questions, you could, you know, either you could ask Pegasus questions directly, or you could come back and ask me, because, you know, I've seen most of his work, etc., things like that. You know what I mean? So that you could just, you could, like, that way when people come back and ask you for help, right, they're not in their ABCs. You know what I mean? Like I already, you know, set them up to a point where, like, they understand enough to go, so that you guys could go have a happy session at, like, a brick and mortar together. You know what I mean? And they are more or less already got all the lingo down, and, you know, they're like, what that, and just being completely annoying. You know, right? That is the purpose of the website first, and then it happens to have a store. Okay, so yeah. That is why I don't put together the Facebook discussion thing, because I don't want to constantly admin and monitor that, because the flame war will happen. It just will happen, okay? Because I don't know, because it's freaking Facebook, and a lot of young people are on that, and they can't help but, like, you know, one person just has to shame the other person for some reason. I don't know. It just happens, okay? Number 8. This is a very common question that I get all the time, okay? And it is, I'm looking to get a Mech Mod and an RDA. What do you recommend? Right? Thought about this many times, over and over again. Okay, and I gotta admit, right, when I first started doing this stuff, my answer would have been different. From where I am now, my answer will always be the same for a very, very, very long time. Okay, until basically, you know, it's like a rotary phone. Like, you can't get a rotary phone anymore, right? So it's got to be the Nemesis and the IGO L. Okay, why? Because I got to put this out there first, right? is that there is many different levels of vaping that like many of us forget. So when a person first starts, the whole vaping or whatever, right? He's not exactly vaping, although he's technically vaping, but what he's really doing is trying to mimic smoke, right? Because he's trying to trade this activity for this activity. He's trying to swap. So therefore, you're not exactly vaping, you are smoke mimicking using the vapor. So once they're done with that and then looking for that next level of satisfaction or whatever, right? An IGO-L from, an ego device with like an EVOD or like a Vivinova or whatever, just a plain IGO-L is going to be like worlds ahead, because till this day, not an Aerotank, not a Nautilus, not a whatever, although they vape very well, but not a single one of them truly creates that the same performance as an actual rebuildable. So the IGO-L is the only dripper, right, atomizer, where I'm confident of a person to go ahead and go nuts. Go nuts, build whatever you want. You go put 24 gauge candle. You want to put 222, just go ahead and put 22. Because how many coils can you put on that thing? So go ahead and do what you got to do, and they will be okay. It's a conscience thing. It's not a whole like because you see how people are with like the batteries and that mutant 26650 mod at Vape Blast that blew up and whatever. Like somebody out there, like you don't know people, and something could happen, right? So an IGO-L is like probably like the safest thing that I could recommend to a person where I'm just confident that nothing is going to happen. The other one would be a Nemesis, because the Nemesis Mech Mod is the only Mech Mod that is prepared for anything. That's it. It is the most fully loaded Mech Mod. You know what I mean? Of course, many of you, you could argue the whole like, well, it doesn't perform as well, it's not going to hit as hard as my this and whatever. And you're right. You're all absolutely right. However, you don't know if like he bought this mech bot and then now he wants to swap it out and then put his pro tank on it. He wants to do this, he wants to do that, and all the new mech bots that's out there, like they no longer have like airflow control or whatever. Airflow that's still on a mech bot these days, like all you could really think of is probably between a Stingray and a Nemesis. There's not really anything out there with like airflow anymore. Probably an old Chi-Yu or something like that. So yeah, that's why I recommend those two. Nemesis because it's prepared for anything. You just go ahead and grab one and whatever atomizer or a kick or a size battery or whatever that comes your way, you're going to be able to use it. And then the IGO-L, because you could go nuts and you'll still be safe. Okay. Number 9. This one is a really funny question. Okay. What do you think of indoor smokers? Why? Because we're opposite channels. I get this question a lot. Okay. And originally, right, I had a completely different answer, but now my answer is something that you guys will probably never expect. Okay, and basically, I have newfound huge respect for Chris, indoor smokers. Like you have no idea, huge amount of respect for what he does. Okay, he is a real reviewer, showman. Keep the crowd going, interesting. You know what I mean? He's the guy, and he's the guy who's like the gatekeeper of bringing in like everybody from smoke mimicking into true vaping, into rebuildables, and he's the guy who's helping people go from the mouth hits to the lung hits or whatever. Okay, if it wasn't because of indoor smokers in the front, okay, there wouldn't be like viewers or whatever that eventually make it over to PVA. You see what I'm saying? Another thing, right, is that like for the rest of us, right, reviewers and stuff like that, we get to sit back and many times we get to cherry pick our items. For instance, I want to do this item, I want to do that item because this one's interesting. I like that one. Ooh, I'm real excited about that, right? But the stuff that Chris gets, right? From the Aero Tank to the Aero Tank 2 to the Aero Tank 3, the Pro Tank to the Pro Tank 2 to the Pro Tank 3 to the Pro Tank 4, the MVP to the MVP 2 to the MVP, this, and, if I get another MVP, I'm gonna cry, but um, he has stuck with it. And every single episode, every single video that you tune into, he's there with the courtesy of like he doesn't do something like, well, you already know this is wrong, you know what I mean? Kind of like Krusty the Clown in like The Simpsons or whatever, when like he's introduced like the 500th like cartoon or whatever. He's like, yeah, kids, here's another Bugs Bunny, like whatever, and then he just goes off to the side to smoke a cigar, right? Uh, Instead, like he's still doing every single item out there with that full enthusiasm. You know what I mean? And to be honest with you guys, I would not be able to do that. I would pull my hair out and like stab my eyes if I get sent like another Vivi Nova. If I have to do like another E-cig, if I have to do another V2, or like these like cardomizer juices and stuff like that. Like I just go insane, And hats off to that guy, because you guys all came from Endor Smokers before you graduated from him and then came over here. So the world absolutely needs him. The world absolutely needs him. You know what I mean? He serves a huge, huge purpose that I think probably goes underappreciated on most days. So yeah, we don't talk, but I have a huge amount of respect for that guy. Okay, so number 10, who else do you watch? Well, no one in particular. I don't exactly have like a religious following of people that I watch or whatever, right? But definitely the two people that I first started watching before I started the channel, right, was between Phil and Z Vapor. Okay, both math people, both numbers guys, and that's what this channel has done as well. You know what I mean? Just try to bring something a little more concrete to the table. It's not about being smug. It's not about being like I'm the intellectual, or like it's like I don't wear glasses. I don't like talk with a British accent or something like that. It's all about having concrete evidence. That's what it really is. Okay, I because I don't want to just give an opinion and just be like it's like a train, and then people leave a whole bunch of comments at the bottom like, does it really, does it really, because that's exactly how I felt. And what I wanted to do was that like any findings that I have, I go ahead and I show you guys the work, right? And then if you are skeptical, you know what I mean, more or less, you could go ahead and pick up from some of the links that I left, or do some diggings of your own and see if you come to the same conclusion, and it's been a good ride so far, because for the most part, most of you guys have ended up coming with the same conclusions, if not sometimes hit a dead end. So yeah, vaping, still many mysteries out there for us to uncover and whatnot. As far as all the other larger channels go, right, I do subscribe to them, and I don't exactly watch them to watch them or whatever. It's more like I check out the titles of what's out, and if somebody's got something that like I've never heard of, I'm like, what the hell is this, right? Like when the Little Boy RDA came out, and it's just like, what the hell is the Little Boy? Then I'll watch an episode of something when it's something just completely unheard of in the midst of vape news. Other than that, right, the only other vapor that I watch is Big Lou's East Coast review, because it is hysterical. Okay, I don't watch any of his item reviews or whatever, but I watch every single vlog that he does, just every single vlog. Okay, and I don't know if Lou's gonna kill me or laugh or whatever if he sees this, but what makes it really funny to watch, right? The funniest thing is that, like, I hope if I point this out, he doesn't stop doing it. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna be like, oh, is that what's happening? I'm not gonna do it anymore. No, keep doing it because it's hysterical. Okay, what happens is that, like, he always releases a video where he talks about some stuff, right? And I usually don't even see anything wrong with it, but it always ends up with a lot of negative blowback. You know what I mean? And what happens is that, like, he puts out a video, and then his next following video has to be like an explanation or a correction or whatever because somebody got butthurt with, like, what he said in the previous one. At the same time, Lou, presents a show with, like, a whole, like, like, I don't care what you think attitude. I'm gonna give my honest opinion. But then at the same time is that, like, he also has these follow-up videos where he's just like, why are you butthurt? You know what I mean? Which is in a way a little bit hypocritical because it's like, if you don't care, then you don't care. Then screw you. I'm not gonna put up another follow-up video for, to like try to, soothe your feelings or something like that. But he does, and then he tells people like it's okay to leave me alone, but I mean, like, don't be a jerk about it. And it's hysterical, like, what happens. There was I love, I watch it and I crack up laughing all the time, just leaving it in the background, like, okay, little bit of cussing on this one, okay. He had a video, right, where he goes, so, blah 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 blah, whatever, and then or if you just want to and leave me a comment below, etc. How we usually close, like, a video or something. But then at the end of the video, he would be like, or leave me a message and tell me to go fuck myself or blah, 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 so something like that. Okay, and then the next week there will be a video where it'd be like, all right guys, you gotta stop leaving me the go fuck myself, like, messages. Okay, it was getting ridiculous, and it's just so funny. It's just so hysterical. Not to mention, like, how many letters that he gets from people to, this and that or whatever. And I don't know, every time he puts out, like, the initial video, I never see anything wrong with it. Like what like he's not doing anything bad. He's not doing anything wrong. But then it just ends up getting a lot of hate, and it's hysterical. It's just absolutely hysterical. He did one where he decided to shout out, like, a couple of other YouTube reviewers, right? So, there's a lot of YouTube reviewers out there. There's a lot of people, right? So he mentioned a couple of them. He mentioned more than a couple of them. I mean, if I had to, like, count it, on both hands or whatever, I'd say he mentioned about, like, anywhere between, like, 30 and 40 people. And that's actually a lot of people. But there's more than that out there. So anybody that he didn't, shout out or whatever, right? He got a ton of negative blowback for that. I mean, the guy was just trying to do something nice and just be like, I like this guy, I like that guy, I watch this, I watch that, and that was it. And then it's like, hey, you didn't mention this and you didn't mention that, and then he got destroyed. So it's like, well, what would have been better if he just didn't put out that video and just didn't shout out anybody? I mean, would that have been better? And he did another one where, like, he does, like, a fan appreciation thing where he says, like, thank you to some people or whatever, and then you just got a whole ton of crap for that too. It's the stuff that goes on over at his channel. I mean, you gotta watch it, leave it on in the background, and it's hysterical. Okay, the rest of the reviews that he does or whatever, they're pretty honest reviews and they're fun, but not nearly as fun as the vlogs. The vlogs is just absolutely hysterical, and he's the only guy, in vape world that, like, I watch not exactly for vaping. All right, so that was the 10 questions. I know this video has gone on for much longer than it should have, but yeah, like I said, these are the 10 questions that like warranted a very big answer, and that's why the video went on for as long as it did. Okay, so if you have any further things that you want to add or whatever, question, comments below, and I'll see you again next time.